The following is a GoPowerCat.com production.
It is 25 degrees today in Cincinnati, 54 degrees in Orlando, 27 degrees in Manhattan, Kansas, and it's a heat wave here at Studio 54, 35 degrees here in Frisco. This is the Big Insiders.
Welcome to the Big Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Oh,
What
man.
is going on? What is happening? Fitz, what's going on? Steven, this is Brien Hanley. Welcome to the Big Insiders. What is going on today?
Cold front coming through here.
What is it? What was it again in Orlando right now?
54 degrees.
Dude,
Unbelievable. And he said a cold front.
It was 47. I was dressed up.
Let's take this show to a whole new level. You son of a bitch. we just got out of negative here. It's 20 something outside. It feels like I should go outside and sunbathe. It's amazing.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, here in Texas, like I said, it's a heat wave today. It's 35 degrees. I feel great. Outside. I know sooner or later I'm going to go out later. Somebody's going to be out in shorts today. I know it just from what it's been the last few days. So thank you guys for coming in, man. I appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last night in Big 12 basketball. I mean, some great basketball games that were going on last night. K-State had a big win over Baylor. Baylor, I mean, they basically shot like they did not want to win the game. And you're not beating many people shooting 33%, 18% from three. K-State wasn't a whole lot better, but it was enough to get another win. I don't know what else you're going to be able to say about Jerome Tang coaching in overtime. If any team decides to go to overtime against Kansas State, just say, oh, we want to lose. We want to lose the game and we're not going to win. That's basically what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. KU got a big win. I mean, they smacked around Oklahoma State. I didn't expect anything less. Things are starting to get dicey down in Oklahoma State. The coaching change, they're starting to rattle. It might be time there. That's sad to say, but it just might be time. TCU went on the road, ranked team. Cincinnati basically said, Cincinnati's played good basketball for a long time. And the game went into overtime. Cincinnati, I think, is going to equate themselves very well to Big 12 basketball, 81-77, big win at home over a ranked TCU team and a good TCU team, I might add. And then BYU. I think people thought BYU was going to be pretty good to begin the season, but BYU has just become, I mean, they're getting up and down, they're scoring a ton of points. And they just smacked around Iowa State 87-72 and just let everybody know, hey, we're going to be here. We're going to compete in this Big 12 basketball conference. I love it. BYU. Stephen, any thoughts on what you saw from basketball last night?
Well, I mean, Kansas State's they're not going to win pretty. They don't have to win pretty because that game was not pretty by any means. But
it was not.
They're going to win games. I think. From what I've seen of Big 12 basketball this year, Kansas State has been the best team UCF has played.
Gotcha.
At least when
even after beating Kansas, you say that.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, when they play UCF, they have looked the best. Yeah.
Okay.
Stephen, in the big picture now, as we see Kansas kind of start to roll opponents, just do Kansas things, is it add a little more? I don't know, some more whipped cream on the Sunday of beating KU in your first Big 12 home game at UCF?
I think it does. I think Kansas potentially being a number one seed later in the tournament that's a big check for Johnny Dawkins. Mm-hmm. A lot of people called for his head. Yeah. Feels like the UCF fans are more calling for his head than actually showing up to games. They kind of showed up against Kansas, and they showed up against BYU too. AdFi's kind of been rocking this year.
That's fun. I mean, you bring in some good opponents, and the fans start to show up. I'm telling you what, though, Brien, you know this darn well because we were just talking about K-State basketball when you were in school. When the fans stop showing up and they stop caring, you're in a bad situation because nobody's really going to be actively calling for the coach's head. They just don't care.
Exactly. That's the whole thing about this, is that fans just want to win. They don't care how you win. I know, Steven, you mentioned ugly, that K-State's winning ugly. K-State fans don't care. If we win every game ugly, and that goes for all fan bases, they don't care how you win. Just win the games. Just win the games. Show up, be entertaining, and go win the games. I think that's part of it. And K-State fans are loving every minute of this. Like, we can remember, like I said, K-State has a rich tradition in basketball, but we can remember it wasn't like this. It hasn't always been like this, where we've got a coach that we can just say, you know what? He's going to compete with top-level coaches around the country. And if we get into overtime, he knows what to do. He knows what to do, and more importantly, he can get his kids to do it. That's the main thing, is being able to get his kids to do those things. I think that's kind of the advantage that Jerome King has. Even speaking on Johnny Dawkins and just talking about that for a second, give us a little bit more of the landscape there as far as, they had a couple of good seasons a year ago. Now they're in the Big 12. They've won 10 games, I think, so far this season. The Big 12 is tough. What are fans thinking? And tell us, they got a huge win over Kansas. G-Mini Christmas, that's a gigantic win for the program. But moving, how are fans thinking that they can compete in the Big 12 weekend?
Obviously, going into the year, a lot of Johnny Dawkins was not very, for the fans' perspective, wasn't very supportive. Since the Kansas win, playing BYU really close, I feel like the message has really changed. And Mikey Williams coming in as a transfer has really brought the fan base back on board behind Dawkins. They also have a 5-star committed in the 2025 class, which he'll be, if he signs to UCF, he'll be the highest rated signee in program history. Gotcha.
Speaking of Mikey Williams, great player, had some clearly some off the court issues. Is he going to be eligible to play? Because I think if he's eligible to play, that can only make them better, because he's a really good player.
By the NCAA's rules, he should be granted a waiver just because he never stepped foot on Memphis's.
Right.
That's the rule. I don't really understand their transfer rules, but
I don't think anybody understands
the NCAA does.
Yeah, according to the actual wording that's in the bylaws, he should.
Did he actually enroll in Memphis? Because last I heard that he was taking classes online, but he had never even been to Memphis. It was all online, and he was at his house.
Yeah, so I believe he was under house arrest at some point in San Diego. So he was in online classes.
Unbelievable.
I've been in house arrest, but because of the weather.
Right.
I've opted. I even gave myself an ankle bracelet where if I left, it zapped me.
Absolutely.
Obviously, all of those have been cleared by now. So.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic to get into. I don't know what kind of kid he is. By all accounts, he's supposedly a good kid, got into some trouble. The kind of trouble that he got into, I'm not even going to touch on it. It is what it is. But as far as the program is concerned, it can only be a boost. If he can keep his nose clean, I don't imagine he's going to be there too long. And I think Johnny Dawkins, again, to save his job, I'm guessing he wants him to come in and play pretty badly.
Yeah, so apparently the plan is for him to play at UCF, at least for next season too.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's good news.
From what I believe it's his agent, told a reporter for Yahoo when he entered the portal.
Gotcha.
Because
that's great news.
Memphis wasn't making his return for next year a priority, was his main issue.
Aha. Got it. Okay. Well, then that's good news then. Fitz, K-State last night. Let's get into that a little bit. Big win. Not a high-scoring game. Baylor, couldn't throw it in the ocean. I think a lot of that, though, has to do with what K-State may have been doing defensively. It's not that K-State shot the ball a whole lot better, but it was enough. It was enough to win. And again, Jerome Tang in overtime is just mark it down as a win.
Well, the fact that K-State can turn the ball over 17 times against the ninth-ranked team in the country takes 22 more shots. This kind of defies explanation for how K-State won, but I'm going to come back to this. Home courts in this conference are a bitch.
Yes, they are.
I mean, UCF's used it already, and Stephen, you'd agree with this. That's not a threatening home court in Orlando. Not yet.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, they lost to Stetson at home, so.
Yeah.
But the frond has come in, the Fear the Frond, the palm fronds for free throws has kind of changed all of the momentum there.
Interesting. So they're doing some stuff to try to amp up the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's got the students involved. So
well, it's a good thing because, like I said, I don't know that UCF was known as having this juggernaut of a basketball program. So it's good that they are doing some things because, again, I don't know that they want to get into and just be the bottom feeder of the Big 12 because, like Fitz said, the Big 12 is a bear. It's an absolute bear, and it's going to continue to be a bear. Even with the new teams coming in next year, it's going to be even worse. So kind of give us a little rundown as far as UCF getting into the conference as a whole. What are the feelings? I know it's a small sample size coming from the American, but kind of give us the feel of what the jump from the AAC into the Big 12 has been like, not only for the program, but also for the fans.
For the fans, it's been kind of excitement with new teams coming in. A lot of people, like season tickets for basketball had risen, obviously, but not to an insane price limit. So people for the Kansas game were making their entire season ticket allotment back for just one ticket, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's a lot of excitement for the program and for the fans, obviously, to see teams like Kansas come, teams like Kansas State with a great coach like Jerome Tang. They're playing at Texas today, which is Kevin Durant played there. That's fun.
Yeah. Texas atmosphere. They got a new gym they got last year. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because Texas, they have a football stadium that's over 100,000. Basketball arena, not that much. It's weird how they say they care, but then the support isn't necessarily there like that at Texas. But we don't care about Texas. It is what it is. So moving on, let's talk about a little bit as far as basketball. We talked about that. What about football? Gus Malzahn, first season in the Big 12, coming from the AAC. It's a jump. It's definitely a jump. I know it's beneficial for Big 12 teams, and it's going to continue to be beneficial to get a footprint in Florida, not only just for more nationwide recruiting, but just to be down in Florida. You know, K-State played their first ever bowl game in Florida this year, which to me, I mean, I've been around K-State 25 years. I couldn't believe it. I didn't ever really thought about it. That was the first time they played down there. So what is the feeling as far as getting into the conference and jumping and being part of a Power 5 in football? Because it's only going, not that UCF was bad, but it's only going to help them.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a major thing. Side note, big fan of the Pop-Tarts Bowl that K-State played in. I wish I could have ate that edible mascot. But it's a big thing for recruiting. Obviously, people want to play in the better conferences. UCF had 8 blue chip recruits this year. Their previous record was 3, which they set last year. So recruiting's obviously taking a step up. They just hired a new defensive coordinator today, Ted Roof from Oklahoma. And he'll serve with Addison Williams, which was kind of a struggle this year. Right. Obviously, better teams, a brand new defense coordinator that didn't have any experience was a little shaky. So they bring in a veteran to help him out. And it's just an adjustment period to life at a Power, 4 level now.
Gotcha. Yeah. I would say that the adjustment period, I mean, and there's going to be one, obviously, but it's just a step up in competition. And I think people have to get used to that. I went through that, and granted, it was a long time ago, 25 years ago, but, I went to junior college, and junior college, we were we played in the national championship game at junior college. And I remember the very first spring practice that I went to at Kansas State. I'm like, holy mackerel. I go, this is totally different. I go, you were used to going against somebody, okay, he's pretty good. Then everybody was way better. And it's an adjustment period. And even going against your own guys, until you go against somebody else, it's totally different. I think UCF kind of went through a little bit of those growing pains this year.
Yeah. I mean, plus the depth, obviously they have depth at some positions, but like linebacker, quarterback was a real big issue for UCF at points this year. Obviously,
Yeah.
John Rice missed basically 4 games because he only played one drive against Kansas.
Right.
Walter Yates missed 3 games in the middle of the year. That really just killed any momentum that they took from their 3-0 start. So.
Right. Well, that would be the one thing that I can tell you is that because for years, K-State struggled with depth issues, and you got to build up the depth to compete at this level. And I think they're working on it. It's not something that you can just do overnight. I know a lot of people think, oh, well, you can bring in transfer portal. And I go, yeah, but that's not really for depth. You're getting somebody out of the transfer portal. If you're doing that for depth, that's a problem. I don't think you're trying to use transfer portal for depth. You're trying to bring somebody in that can improve your team immediately right away, not add to depth to your program. You got a quarterback coming in this year from Arkansas. Tell us a little bit about, I don't know, is he on campus yet? Is he the projected starter? What do we think going on there?
He will be the projected starter. They had a press conference just for him to announce his transfer.
Okay.
KJ Jefferson, he's a big guy, so that helps with the depth at quarterback because he's less of an injury risk being as big as he is. I think there was a play against Alabama where he just whips off a player. He's a very strong quarterback that can run. Perfect fit for an RPO offense that UCF runs.
Yeah.
Just really the perfect kind of player for a Gus Malzahn, Darren Hinshaw team. And UCF plays in the Swamp this year against Florida, which I know a lot of fans are excited about because it's going to be their first time going there in a long time. And he's played there before. He won last season.
Correct. So he's going to have some experience. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. I think this offense definitely fits him better than what they were doing at Arkansas. And if I'm being honest, I think the offensive players, the people around him, the pieces are better than what he had at Arkansas. I just flat out believe that it's better than what he had at Arkansas.
That offensive line was very bad.
Absolutely. I think this sets his skill set. I know you talked a little bit defensive side of the ball. That's kind of where UCF struggled a little bit this year. Bringing in a new defensive coordinator, I think, is going to be key, and having them just compete more in the conference, because the Big 12 has always been known as a conference that has offenses that can get up and down the field. UCF fits into that perfectly. They have an offense that can go up and down the field. But tackling is an issue. And tackling is an issue. First of all, I don't want to single UCF out as that they're the only team that struggles with tackling. Tackling is an issue from Pop Warner football to the NFL. They just do not teach tackling anywhere anymore. They always feel like people are going to get hurt. And I'm just like, if you don't practice tackling, how can you be better at tackling? But I think it's one of the things that UCF's going to have to be better at. I know a lot of people singled that out this year. And you mentioned the jump from, the AAC up to Power 5 football is guys are bigger, a little stronger, a little faster. You got to have sure tackling. And I think bringing in a new defensive coordinator with a new defensive philosophy is going to help them with that.
Yeah, I also think it pairs well keeping Addison Williams, who was the defensive coordinator last year. Him being paired with Ted Roof, who's a great run game, great at defending the run game, with Addison being a great defensive backs coach. I think those two pair really well together. And I think that the melding of minds kind of
Absolutely.
really will be beneficial.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it'll be a good mentor for Addison as he's a young coach.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, we're going to take a quick break here and give a little shout out to our partners at Synergy Financial Partners. We'll take a quick break and we'll come right back.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
All right. Well, Fitz, it doesn't look like our other guests wanted to join today.
That's why I left for a while. Keegan is fighting technology.
Yeah.
The address of their show is taking him to a blank screen.
Oh, wow.
I have no idea. He said he's looking at our background. Everything's there, but we're not there.
Oh,
That's always those Bearcats, man.
Yeah, I know. They don't know how to spell Bearcats. I don't know. They're just trouble. They're just trouble.
Man.
They do weird stuff with their chili. I know Brian likes
Wait
it.
a minute, Fitz. Hold on a second.
They're not even the weirdest people. Iowa State has that like cinnamon bun chili thing.
That's a Midwest thing. I don't.
I was going to say that's a Midwest thing.
That's a Kansas thing too, and I don't agree with it. I think it's a really bad idea. I don't. Who decided that a cinnamon roll goes with chili? What kind? I don't know. You know what this was? This was poor farmers trying to come up with a meal. What do we got? Well, we got chili, and because we got lots of beans, and then we've got cinnamon rolls. Perfect. Yeah. Serve it up. We'll tell them it's a treat.
That's funny. I mean, it's absolutely believable too, but it's hilarious. I don't know if I can go with you on the chili thing though, Fitz. Hold on. Here's the weird thing about that. I never saw chili until my wife made it for me one time. We were in college, 21 years old. I had never seen chili without noodles in it. Never a day in my life. And she made it, and I'm like, what is it? And she said, it's chili. And I was like, where's the noodles? It's like, well, you don't need noodles. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. And ever since then, I remember she came to my mom's house. She was like, well, I thought she was making chili. I was like, she did. She goes, that's spaghetti. I'm like, no, it's not. And don't say that ever again. So
I love moving on, from the East Coast.
So, Stephen, tell us a little bit. I know we talked a little bit about basketball and football, just the overall experience. How has the overall experience for UCF been getting into the conference? I know I asked you a little bit about the fans, but moving forward, what benefits do you and maybe the fans administration see because getting into the Big 12?
I think from a financial perspective, obviously it's very beneficial. They're not even a full member yet.
Right.
And they're already seeing a lot of projects go on that just wouldn't have happened if they were still in the American. Gotcha. They had a big donation. Donors are probably more willing to show out money if they can see their product in a Big 12 capacity as opposed to the American. I believe they had the biggest donation, or like one of the top 5 biggest donations, come through yesterday from the Roth family, who already have supported the Roth Tower, which is where the press box is.
Okay.
Shout out to them.
Very nice.
That's a very nice area.
That's the thing is that once you get it rolling, look, I saw it firsthand at K-State. It started a little bit before I got there, but once you get it rolling, people love to support things that are winning that they can feel a part of. And like I said, I saw it at K-State, man, and I've seen it over the 25 years that I've been either a player or a fan of K-State and Associated. I've just seen it grow tremendously with people just wanting to be a part of it. So for UCF fans and people like yourself, it will be exciting. As long as you can keep it rolling, it's going to be exciting to see what happens and what transpires through donations and just through fan support in general. It's going to be super, super exciting. I think one of the things that you guys are going to see is mentioned, the fan support. you're going to see a lot of people travel. Is UCF a fan base that travels to other venues?
I think it depends on what venue it is. I know UCF fans were very vocal about not traveling to Lubbock, Texas,
Right.
just because it's very hard to get to and very expensive to get to as well.
Gotcha.
But Kansas is a place that people travel to, Kansas State. For Texas, for the rest of the sports that we're playing Texas in, I feel like people will probably travel out there. I know a lot of people travel to the Oklahoma game.
Right.
Cincinnati is another place where a lot of people travel. I've heard people getting ready to travel to West Virginia this year.
Sure.
Which is fun.
Well, and that was going to be the thing, especially with all the new conference or the new teams coming into the conference. I mean, that's a long distance trip trying to go to Provo or to Boulder, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Tucson. I mean, that's a long way for them to go.
Funnily enough, Arizona State has been like a big travel destination, like for UCF fans that I've heard of.
Okay. Well, Phoenix is a nice area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously Florida is Florida, but Phoenix is a nice area. So if you get an opportunity to go out there and hang out a weekend in Tempe to a football game, or maybe it's a basketball weekend or something like that, then yeah, that's definitely an opportunity to for UCF fans to try to take advantage of.
I mean, UCF also has previous in Arizona with the 2013 Fiesta Bowl.
Fiesta Bowl, absolutely.
Losing the Fiesta Bowl to LSU.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. Here's the thing is, as a Big 12 fan and a Big 12 supporter, getting into Florida is huge for the conference. Now, a lot of people may or may not admit that, but being able to get a footprint in Florida is huge. I saw my school, Kansas State, get several guys out of Florida every single year. Bill Snyder was down there getting guys to come to Florida, to come to Kansas State. And it just helped. And they got out of Florida. If they have an opportunity to get back in there just because you put a school in there, you get a school that's in your conference now, and hey, I can see my son play on national TV or play on TV every week. I just think that's a big deal. Is it that big of a deal for fans to be part of the Big 12 for UCF?
I think it is. I think also it's beneficial for UCF to get players from Texas and get players from the Midwest.
Absolutely.
Now they used to love recruiting quarterbacks from Arizona. They had 2 back-to-back and Mikey Keene and Parker Navarro. So you get that connection back. I think it's beneficial both ways, and I think the fans are seeing that it's beneficial both ways.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it helps everybody. I just, it's just one of those things where I think UCF getting into the conference was a no-brainer. It was an absolute no-brainer. I know a lot of people talked about South Florida. I never thought South Florida was really serious. Speaking of South Florida, is South Florida really a UCF rival?
They definitely are. They're obviously not going to play in football for a while, so it's kind of hard to keep it going, but they definitely are. The war on I-4 was very exciting. The fans still care about it, so I think they definitely are. But
yeah, it's hard to keep those things going with the non-conference schedules the way that they are. I mean, they're so far out, and they were conference rivals before, and now that they're not, it just makes it a lot more difficult. So we'll
I think the earliest they could possibly play is like 2029 as things stand. So
yeah, and that's the thing. 2029 is a long time out. I mean, they'll be able to find a conference rival before that game comes around. There'll be somebody that they will be able to count on to be a conference rival. Big 12 is pretty good at that, and they will schedule them to play. Yeah, somebody.
Is
there somebody already?
Who's Cincinnati?
That?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking. I'd heard
it kind of started in the AAC, both battling for that supremacy.
Yep.
And it just carried over now to the Big 12.
Gotcha. And I kind of thought that, but I didn't want to assume. I wasn't that familiar with it. So I didn't want to just assume that. Mitch, what do you think? UCF getting into the Big 12. I know we talked about it several times, but I just thought it was a no-brainer.
Oh, it's a no-brainer, absolutely. And now, the rumors are stirring about the ACC breaking up. So I think we might in the future see some really good schools to pair with Cincinnati or with the UCF and Cincinnati out there, along with West Virginia. The amazing thing is Miami's coming up more and more in the talk about the Big 12 because they might have problems with fitting in either the Big 10 or SEC. And if that happens, that's a game changer for UCF to have, another Florida school like Miami to join the conference. That's huge.
Yeah, I think it is.
Stephen, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the bringing back a regional rivalry would obviously be huge. Yeah. Be it Miami, be it Georgia Tech, just someone close enough where the fans have interactions on a daily basis.
That's my thing. You can have a nationwide conference, and we'll be talking about 20 schools if they dig into the ACC. But you got to have regional partners. It's got to all make sense.
Yes.
And they're kind of out of whack with the West right now. I still think they're going to regret adding all those Western schools and not one more in the East to kind of get some balance. Because if you don't obey that balance, you get a West Virginia stranded and feeling outside. And now that's been passed to UCF because they are literally on an island, well, peninsula in this case, without an opponent that you would call their regional rival. So I think getting into that ACC footprint would be huge, particularly with, if you can get Clemson, and it'd just be enormous for the Big 12.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage of UCF to not become a West Virginia would be just the amount of travel into Orlando.
Yeah.
Whereas you have to fly to Pittsburgh to go to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Here it's where the world vacations, or whatever their slogan is.
Yep. I hear you.
Orlando is a travel hub for a lot of airlines.
Yeah,
it sure
absolutely. Is. Well, one thing about the ACC, just touching on that for a second, it's going to implode. I know they keep talking about the grant of rights and it's going to cost so much money. I think they said like $150 million for Florida State to get out. Lawyers lawyer. And they are going to find a way to get out of this. And it might be $75 million. It might be $50 million. They'll have to pay a little bit, but they're going to get out. And if Florida State gets out, the floodgates will open immediately and that conference will be finished. It will be finished.
Yeah. I mean, talking to people here, like being in the state of Florida State they're committed to getting out of that conference. They are not.
Sure.
They're not fans of staying in the ACC long term.
Guys, we got breaking news. I'm leaving you because
I'm a man. Keegan, what's going on, my man?
I mean, apparently I have computer issues, so that's not a welcome news, but I'm doing great, all things considered.
I understand, man. Technology is the ruler of all evil. Don't worry about it, my man. How's it going today, man?
It's going good. Big 12 basketball season's here. It's absolute chaos, and I'm enjoying my first season covering it, so it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I am a big-time basketball as far as Big 12, saying that the Big 12 is clearly the best basketball conference in the country. I don't think it's close. I don't care what anybody says. Last night was kind of an indication of that. TCU comes to town, 19 in the country, and UC says, no, sir. No, sir.
Yeah.
UC, people don't understand. I'm from Louisville originally, so I get the UC thing. I was a Louisville fan growing up, so I get how good UC has been forever, man. Kind of take us through that a little bit as far as integrating in the conference basketball. We'll start basketball-wise, how that's been.
UC's always been a basketball school. I mean, Luke Fickell took over the football program and turned him into a household name, basically, when they were struggling before. But, I mean, you think Bob Huggins, Kenyon Martin, Mick Cronin had some really, really good teams.
Right.
But getting into this conference this season, it's been really, really complicated. You play two decent teams in your non-conference schedule in Dayton and Xavier. You lose both of them.
Right.
And going into Big 12, you're kind of like, this could be an ugly season based off of who we've beaten so far and who we've lost to. And then you go in and, I mean, John Rothstein has the like consult your cardiologist joke, but I'm literally like, I can't handle most of these games. It's coming down to the last minute. Like each team has a chance to win every time so far. And then you get in last night and you got 3 seconds left. TCU misses. It's tied at 70 or 67. They foul Dan Skellings. He can go down and make one free throw, and he gets 2 to take the lead. He misses both.
Right.
And then they foul Ernest Uda, and then he goes down and misses his, and then we go to overtime. And it's like, I need to leave here and get it stiffed around.
You know what? That's great.
Yeah, but it's been awesome. The fans love it. The energy in Fifth Third Arena it's not comparable. I think the only time it was like that in the AAC was when Wichita State came to town when they were contending for the title, when Houston was really good and UC had those great battles. But it's just night in and night out. You have a chance to completely reshape your NCAA tournament resume, get a bunch of quad one wins every single week. You have that possibility. So the Big 12 is really an unmatched conference, and it's been an absolute delight to be able to cover it.
Yeah, it challenges you every single game. When you think that you have a breather, that's when you get beat. That's what the Big 12 basketball conference is. When you think, okay, you know what, we got one tonight, then you lose. A perfect example, Stephen. KU comes to UCF thinking, okay, we got a breather, and you get beat. So the integration, like you mentioned, UCF, like I said, I know about the basketball, or not UCF, but UC. I know about their basketball tradition. Let's talk about the football. Scott Satterfield coming over from Louisville. I don't think the season went necessarily as they thought that it was going to go. I'll be the first person to tell you, I'm still a Louisville fan at heart, even though I die with K-State. That was not – Louisville fans were not disappointed, and I know you've heard this a million times. They were not disappointed for him to go to UC. They were not disappointed at all. Tell me what the fans are thinking right now with the program, coming from Luke Fickell, who was so successful, and then this season not going the way that everybody thought that it would go.
Yeah, right now they're thinking if they have a repeat of last season, his seat's going to be really, really hot going into year 3. But they've done a decent job in the transfer portal, getting some high ceiling guys. One example of that is Northern Illinois defensive end George Gums commits to Cincinnati before he even goes on a visit. Everyone's telling me he's going to play on Sundays. He's a freakishly athletic defensive end, transition from wide receiver to tight end and then defensive end. And then Florida scoops him up out of Cincinnati's hands before he can enroll at UC. So that's just kind of a sign of what this staff is doing and identifying the talent that they want to bring in. Last year, it was kind of just bringing together scraps and trying to fill roster spots. I think they had one scholarship receiver return before last season.
Right.
And Chris Scott.
That's tough.
They had to fill that entire room out. They did a pretty good job with Xavier Henderson and Braden Smith. They had good seasons. But this year is the prove it year. This year is the year you're expecting to make a bowl game at minimum. And then if you miss that, there's going to be questions about Scott Satterfield's longevity at Cincinnati. But you get a guy like Brendan Sorsby at QB from Indiana, who's kind of proven he can compete in at least the Big Ten. Put up some good stats there on a really, really bad Indiana team. He had to manage some offensive coordinator firings and hirings and stuff like that. And then you have a coach who's on the hot seat, obviously. But I think the ceiling with some of the guys they brought in is pretty high. And I think if they can take advantage of that and hit on some of those guys, continue to develop them, I think they could get into that range of winning a bowl game. And then Big 12 football is kind of similar to Big 12 basketball, and you never know what's going to happen 1 through 14.
No.
So I don't know a lot of people who expected Oklahoma State to have the season they did after losing to South Alabama by like 30 points in week 3. So you never know what can happen.
You're 1,000% correct. It's just, again, same as basketball. You think you got a game, you think it's a breather, and you turn around and you get beat. And you don't just get beat, you get smacked around. In football, it's brutal. So I was talking to Steven earlier, Keegan, and as far as rivals concerned, he said that there was kind of a rivalry between UCF and UC that started in the AAC conference.
Mm-hmm.
Does UC, do they see it the same way, number one? And do they see, now that they're in the Big 12, West Virginia being a little bit of a rival there as well?
They absolutely see it as a rivalry. I think the fan base, I don't want to call both of them toxic, but they love going after each other on Twitter.
No, they're both toxic. They're both really toxic.
Well, it's a constant back and forth with UC and UCF fans, to the point where they won't even call them UCF. They'll just say Central Florida, because they know that makes everyone angry when they do that.
And the chili chompers.
Yeah. Yeah. But going into the Big 12, that is one of the things that I appreciate about UCF, is that rivalry has made it to where it's a question whether it's going to be UCF or West Virginia, because you would have guaranteed it was going to be West Virginia given the distance between the two. But that it's just the storylines of UCF going undefeated, not making the playoff, and then them paving the way. I'm not claiming this. There's definitely some semblance to it. Paving the way for UC to do that as a group of 5 team.
Right.
Just that back and forth is awesome. And I think and especially, I mean, you take 3 of UC's contributors from last season on this year's UCF team with Deshaun Pace, Miles Montgomery, and Brian Threats. It's going to be really, really testy when they play. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think Threats actually got ejected from the UCF game last year for touching officials.
Contact with the referee. Yeah. And then I think UCF took the top off the defense after that happened a couple times. So that definitely impacted the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, rivalries are fun. The testier, the better. Nothing illegal, but the testier, the better, in my opinion. I mean, going back and forth with each other, I mean, that's why we all love college sports. That's why we love college athletics. So the back and forth of it all. Tell me a little bit as far as you see with the new teams that are coming in, the travel from Cincinnati to Provo, Salt Lake City, Boulder, Tempe, Tucson. Tell me a little bit as far as the fans. I don't know. I don't want to speak on it unintelligently. UC fans, are they known to travel? And I mean, that's a long way to go. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend, but are they a school that will take 4,000 or 5,000 people on and away? Basketball gets tough. Football's a little different. Are they a school, a university with a fan base, I should say, that will take that many people that far?
Yeah, I don't want to say that they travel like a Nebraska or an Ohio State or an Alabama, but there will definitely be UC fans all over the country wherever they play. I remember I went to Provo, and there was a pretty decent sliver of UC fans that were there. It wasn't to the point where it was like 2021 in Notre Dame where they took up like 33% of the stadium, and a big chunk of it was red.
Right.
But this is a really devoted fan base. I think they take it personal that a decent amount of people in the Cincinnati area claim Ohio State as their team. So they really, really want to prove that the Cincinnati fandom is real and it's serious. But I don't think it's to the point where it's like a Nebraska or Alabama that they're going to take over an opposing stadium. But if you can give them a cheap flight and a cheap ticket, they will definitely take advantage of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember my first year in college, I went and played basketball at Xavier. And I remember that kids even that went to Xavier, half of those people were Ohio State fans. And I'm thinking, and a lot of those kids were from Cincinnati. And I'm like, really? Is that how it is? And they were like, yeah, that's just how it is. So I get it.
Yeah.
Moving into the conference, and then, we'll touch a little bit on this before we get you guys both off of here. What are some of the benefits that not only the university, but also the fan base thinks as far as UC jumping into the Big 12? What are some of the benefits that they are seeing from doing so?
The biggest benefit is the financial gain, just plain and simple. I think they announced the opening of a indoor practice facility for football and all the other athletes. It's going to have an indoor football field. And I can't remember the exact number on it, but I think it's a really, really big investment. I think it's $34 million, maybe something. Nice. It might even be more than that. but it's state of the art, and it's something that it drew Scott Satterfield to take the Cincinnati job and leave Louisville. It's something that they tell recruits every time they visit, like, you're going to come here and you're going to have this for a few years if you commit to Cincinnati.
Right.
So I think the movement to the Big 12, and then when that happens, you move from Under Armour to Nike and Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just so much upward trajectory for Cincinnati right now. In basketball, you get a near 5-star in Tyler Betsy to commit, one of the highest commits in program history. And then you're trying to chip away at football. You're trying to get some good transfers. But I think the finances right now and how much they can invest in athletics, how much they can invest in football alone is kind of the biggest thing. And then, like we saw, they did not almost pack out Fifth Third Arena on a Tuesday night when they were in the AAC, unless they were playing Houston or Wichita State. And now that atmosphere, what happened at TCU, is basically going to be a weekly occurrence through the winter for basketball season. So I think there's just so much rejuvenated interest in Cincinnati, and maybe they can steal some of those Ohio State bandwagon fans back if they can have some success.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like I said, I'm very familiar with UC basketball growing up in Louisville. So I understand. I've been to that arena many, many times. I understand. And it used to be where on a Wednesday night it would be packed.
Yeah.
It used to be that. It absolutely used to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand. People in the Big 12 aren't going to they'll understand, but going out there, they'll get familiar real quick. First of all, that place gets rowdy, but it's a great basketball venue.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's one of the things that the Big 12 holds its hat on, is having great basketball venues. Cincinnati adds to that when it comes to a basketball venue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the best arenas in all of college basketball from an aesthetic standpoint. Mm-hmm. They did the renovations. I think it was my junior year of high school, maybe 2018 or 2019. And it's been a very welcome sight because there was a lot of historic feel to that old arena. They completely gutted it out and redid it. And UC's delivered so far on it.
Gotcha. Well, man, thank you both for joining the show today. We will absolutely have you guys back on several times as we get moving further on the Big Insiders. Like I said, this is the Big 12 Sports Channel, so we are going to be having you guys on all the time. I appreciate you making the time today. We're going to take another break from our partners here, but I appreciate you guys, man. You guys have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
All right,
Hello, friend.
So I was looking in the comments here, and a question that I'll just pull up here is they were asking about the TCU. Why did they forfeit that game? I didn't even know about it. I will let you answer that one and be more familiar. I know you told me the answer, but go ahead.
My camera keeps going out of white balance. I look very Trumpian. Look, this is a really interesting situation. I'm mixing up with a TCU fan right now on Twitter X. So apparently TCU is down to 6 scholarship players. They've had 2 injuries. They're claiming they had 4 in practice on Tuesday. That means they have 12 scholarship players and 15 scholarships available. First, okay, why haven't you filled your scholarships? But surely you have some walk-ons. Surely there is more than, by you saying we only have 6 scholarship players would indicate there's some walk-ons available to play.
Yeah.
Play the damn game. Don't use safety and health issues. If the players are healthy, how does this affect their safety?
Exactly.
Unless there's some kind of, I don't know, contagious thing going through the team, and they don't want, that would make sense to me, but that's not what they said. They've said it's injuries, not illness, injuries. I'm baffled by this. I think it's a horrible look for the Big 12 and pathetic of TCU. If you've got enough players, if you truly don't have enough players to play, don't play. I get that. But if you've got 6 and maybe 7 or 8 with walk-ons, go play. I don't think it's a coincidence, Brian, that this comes up against Kansas State and Iowa State, the two unbeaten teams in this conference. I think they know they were going to get their feelings hurt, even with a healthy team. And now without that, they were scared of just getting their doors blown off. You chose to line up to be a basketball team. Go be a basketball team if you've got the players to do it. And they apparently do.
Well, for me, you're right. Go play the basketball game. But even if what they said, I'll take it a step further, Fitz. If what they said is true and that these people got hurt in practice, what the hell's the coach doing? Read the room. You get two people hurt that bad in practice, practice is over. Okay. Right. If I know that I only have a certain number of scholarship players and two of them get hurt so badly that we can't play, practice is over. That's it. Yep. And we got to figure something else out. Don't tell me you're going to go. Like I said, I've been through a lot of basketball practices. I've never seen 4 people get hurt so bad in a practice that they can't play. And you know that they can't play for the next 2 games. Something else is going on. I just don't buy it. I literally don't buy it.
I'm with you. I don't, this doesn't make sense to me at all. Yeah. Unless it is a contagious, some type of, maybe they got some COVID running around. I mean, even what's running around now isn't as serious as the original. I don't know, man. But to say it's injuries, that indicates to me either the coach went wild in practice, got mad at him for losing a bunch of games, and beat the hell out of him. You better address that. Yeah. Or the coach said, well, I just don't think we can compete, meaning we can't win, so I don't want to play. That's not how it works. That's a horrible lesson to teach your kids. Hey, you know what? If the odds are against you, just quit. Just don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, this is big time basketball. High school teams, YMCA teams don't do that. I mean, growing up, if a team had 5 kids and that's all they had, they played the game. That's it. You played the game. I just don't want to hear that they didn't have enough play at a major at a Big 12 university. Fitz, you're telling me they didn't have enough kids, enough guys or girls to go out there and play? I just don't buy it. I don't care what anybody says. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. But it is what it is.
Here we go. Another question here. What would the possibility of getting Miami in the Big 12 mean for UCF as a travel partner and overall to the Big 12? I think that's from Purple Freak. I suspect he's a K-State fan. I don't know why. The phrase travel partner is kind of misused. That's from the days when you literally would travel with other teams together, and maybe they would go play Kansas and Kansas State and swap partners, swap opponents. That got weird talking about swapping partners. But what it does make it easier on the conference in the fact that if you want to do, and K-State's done this with Texas a couple times with basketball, 2 games on the road in the same week. And I think that's some of the conference really needs to look at. Well, this week you're going on the road for 2 games. You're going to play UCF and Miami. So the kids now with internet classes now and so much of the stuff being remote online, it doesn't affect the kids, the student athletes as much. You can go in, say, to Orlando on Wednesday, go find a place to practice for a couple days and be in Miami for Saturday and then fly back. And they can do the same with K-State and KU or K-State and Oklahoma State and KU and Iowa State. If you build those in, you can make it much more efficient. And I think they're really focused on doing that with the Olympic sports. They need to do it in basketball a lot. I think it would help the conference quite a bit. Just kind of cut down the wear and tear and make it feel a little bit easier. And I think we should volunteer to move our studios to Florida, maybe on the beach, and then we can do all Big 12 programming for Florida because it's Big 12 territory. And this show will be done all in Speedos.
I'm in. Just sign me up.
I'm telling you what, you put 2 guys like us in Speedos, people are going to watch.
Yes, they are. They are.
Oh boy. Let's see what else we got going here. There's a question about Dante Cephas, a receiver recruit for K-State. We don't know. We think he's going to come to campus. Look, this is a problem with the portal. Let's take this as a bigger picture so any of our non-K-State viewers can kind of get into this topic. Portal kids don't sign anything. They don't sign. I mean, there's nothing binding until they show up and go to class. there's nothing binding them to your university.
Mm-hmm.
That's another problem.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to make an agreement with the school to attend, that agreement needs to have some kind of binding to it of at least 1 year's attendance.
Correct.
I'm all in on you can go to the transfer portal anytime you want, but 1 year at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when this nonsense gets going, and K-State's got a couple guys on this roster who had committed to other schools because they never took classes there. They technically were never on those rosters until they came to K-State. I think that's something you just got to guard against. If you're going to pick a transfer school, sign a piece of paper that says, I am giving you my next year of eligibility.
Yeah.
And then go. If you don't do it, you lose a year of eligibility, but then you could transfer.
Yeah. I mean, that only makes sense. And again, our friends at the NCAA at some point have to step in and just put their foot down on some certain rules, man. I mean, it's not that difficult to do. You know, you can say if you commit and you say that you're going to a school, you have to go there for a year. That's an easy thing to do. This transfer portal thing, like I said, I'll always be a proponent of it, but I always think it needs to be tweaked. Just like all things have to continuously be tweaked as time moves on. It's okay to do that. And I think we get so caught up and so wrapped up in, well, this is the rule and that's it. Well, there's this thing that called amendments in the United States. Laws get changed and tweaked and turned all the time, and it's okay to do. You're telling me we can do that, but we can't tweak a transfer portal? Come on, people.
I know.
It's just crazy.
I know the courts are involved here. That's what set this off. Well, what set it off is the NCAA just thought they could do whatever they wanted to and were exempt from government intervention or court intervention. And that's not what happened. But I think it's not unreasonable, and it's perfectly fair to the athletes to say, in exchange for a year's education, paid education at this institution, I'm giving you a year of my eligibility. And if I do not take advantage of that year's education, I forfeit that year of eligibility.
Absolutely.
I think it's a pretty simple agreement, and players can sign it whenever they want to sign it, but then they're bound. And if they transfer, they lose a year of eligibility at that point by their own commitment, not by some rule. They made the choice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to happen. Got to happen sooner or later, too, in my opinion. The foolishness has gone on long enough. It's gone on long enough. So, well, I think we can wrap this one up today, Fitz. So I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate everybody coming out to listen. The big insiders. We're just getting started, man. We're just getting started. We'll be back tomorrow. See you guys later.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.